Hey friends, I hope the morning's treating you well. Hope you got your coffee if you drink coffee. I'm drinking some corporate coffee. I'm not proud of it. It's got that corporate aftertaste, but I'm out running a bunch of errands today and figured I would talk to you guys in between errands. I'm here in the car. It's wet and miserable and cold, and it's a little bit warmer in the car. When I got up this morning, I made some good coffee, and I'm kind of scrolling through looking at some headlines, and I see a headline that says, beloved classic rock band plays final show. And I was thinking, well, who's that? I wonder who that is. So I click on it, and it's REO Speedwagon. And you're sitting there thinking, I can't believe Otis is talking about REO Speedwagon, and I'm just as surprised as you. But I've never owned an REO Speedwagon album, but I grew up listening to album rock stations. Q95 in central Indiana is just a big blowtorch, and REO Speedwagon has always just been one of the bands in heavy rotation. And as soon as I thought about them, I had these memories come into my head, and some fun stories that I figured I would share with you guys. And the first one that came into my head is I had a friend, man, it's back in the 80s. I was probably like 22 years old, something like that. And there's a buddy of mine who just loved REO Speedwagon. They're from Champaign, Illinois. I grew up in Indianapolis area. It's a Midwestern thing. It's like Cheap Trick. You just really, for some reason, you hear older people talk about seeing them play all the bars around Indiana at a young age. So it's just one of those bands that's always with you. It's probably like that wherever you're at. There's somebody from there. But anyway, there's a buddy of mine who just really loved REO Speedwagon. I didn't really care one way or the other. And one day, somebody brought up REO Speedwagon, and he's just like, I hate them. And everybody's like, what? That's one of your favorite bands. And he's like, oh, I can't stand REO Speedwagon. We're like, well, what happened? And my buddy starts telling the story about how he was driving around one day and pulled in to some convenience store to buy a lottery ticket. And he's like, oh, I got to go get my lottery ticket. I get one every Thursday or something like that. He pulls in, and he hears Kevin Cronin say, one more, people. And you hear that A minor riff kick in, and it's riding the storm out. And I'm telling you, man, there's a certain point in a Midwesterner's life when that song kicks in, you're in the car. It doesn't matter if you got to go in somewhere for whatever, you're in for the ride. So he stops in the parking lot, and he's rocking out, he had a Trans Am also. He's rocking out in his Trans Am to REO Speedwagon, riding the storm out. So as he's sitting there in his parking spot, just rocking out, he sees a guy over here pull up next to him, and he's rocking. He looks over, and the guy gets up, goes in, and finally the song, the big drum thing and the siren comes up once again, and it's over. Don't you know I'm riding? And he gets out of the car, and he walks in to buy his lottery ticket, and this guy walks out all happy, and walks in, and the person that's working at the counter is all smiling and happy, and he says, wow, what just happened in here? And he said, well, the guy that came in just before you bought a lottery ticket, and he just won $1,500. And he just started cussing and threw something down on the ground and swore that day that he'd never listen to REO Speedwagon ever again. That is a true story, and I had not thought of that story in probably 25 years, but when I saw this particular article, I thought of it. I got to open for REO Speedwagon. I don't remember what the gig was. It was an outdoor stage in Indianapolis. It might have been like a Rib Fest or something like that, and I met them briefly. They were really nice, and they went on, and that's the only time I ever saw them live. Like when I would, as a kid, I'd hear Roll with the Changes. I thought that was cool. Gary Richrath was always the thing for me. I thought that he was just like a really great guitar player, a very melodic guitar player, like in a rock setting that always played, what seemed to be worked out parts, and it was a nice thing. I thought that he was good at that. Like Roll with the Changes, I always thought that was a cool, thing. I'd probably, if I came on now, I'd probably listen to it, although I don't know if I've heard it in the last 15 years. There's a few different songs like that. But anyway, I went ahead and watched the show after we played, and I remember that there was a guy that I knew who was a hardcore metalhead. I mean hardcore metalhead, where he'd walk around with, he had the battle jacket, the denim jacket with the, there'd be some Slayer thing over here, some Venom thing over here. He'd have all the scary patches on it, and a hardcore metalhead. And he's right up front, and I'm watching him, and he is just like so into REO Speedwagon. And I was like, what? He really? And I remember when they were playing Keep On Loving You, I'll never forget this. This hardcore metalhead who I would think that REO Speedwagon just wasn't, like true and all that. But he's right up front, like with the angry face and his fist out. And when he's singing, when I said that I love you, I meant that I love you forever. He's screaming it. When he said that I loved you, I meant that I love. I mean, he's screaming it like he's screaming some Slayer song or something, and just completely rock it out. It's one of those pictures that I can't hear that song now without seeing him just completely rocking out to that. And I was like, man, maybe that was the music of his youth or something. And but other memory I have of REO Speedwagon is 1980, the High Infidelity album, which was just everywhere. I was in either 8th grade or a freshman. I don't remember which, but I would spend the night with my cousin lived with my grandparents, and I would spend the night over there. And our grandma, she knew that what kind of music we liked, so she would kind of wake us up by turning on the classic rock station downstairs, and we could hear it upstairs. And every morning, I can remember the piano intro to that song, I'm Gonna Keep On Loving You, dun, 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 that with the reverb and all of that. When I hear that intro, I think of my grandmother's house, which is such a weird thing to think about, but it was being that age and waking up, and it was in such heavy rotation and everywhere. And I just looked at Wikipedia, like right before I did this, and it said, let me see if I can find this. Okay, I had to pause for a second to find this, but in Wikipedia, when you look up High Infidelity, it said that it spent 15 weeks at number one, the number one album, and I'm guessing on Billboard, and only 27 albums have done that, and only 7 rock acts have done that. And it doesn't say which one, but REO Speedwagon is one of 7 rock acts to have an album stay 15 weeks at number one on the Billboard chart. And I just remember it was everywhere, and it was huge. And like I said, I really liked Gary Richrath's playing. I remember him playing the Les Paul. And I don't know, man. They seemed like a band that came out of the bars and had a bunch of rock music, golden country, all this stuff, and then they kind of found this formula of, it was a highly produced thing, and maybe the early power ballad sort of thing that at the time was a huge, huge deal, and they wrote it out all the way from there. And I think Gary Richrath died, I don't know, 10 years ago, something like that. I don't keep up with it, so I don't know. But I've never owned an album, and I probably know 25 of their songs. It shows how much they've been played on classic rock stations. And there's that thing, man. There's the bands that like, oh, I don't like them, like that's not a cool band. But when you're alone and you're driving and you hear a particular song come on, even though you don't like that, you'll listen to it, maybe even turn it up. And like today, if Roll with the Changes came on, I'd listen to that. I'd dig it. I haven't heard Riding the Storm Out in a long time, and I would probably give that a good, turn it up and listen. I don't know if there's other ones. I always think that's interesting about those kind of bands where you never really owned any of their stuff. You don't think about them as being bands that you like or your favorites. But when you hear the song, and probably it helps if you don't hear it very often, then you have good memories and, some nostalgia for it and all that. But what are bands that fit into that for you? I'm kind of curious. There's probably a lot. I'd like to hear it down below. I forgot to say a little bit earlier that REO Speedwagon played their final show as REO Speedwagon, but Kevin Cronin will continue to tour as Kevin Cronin, and he's probably going to do all the same hits since he was the voice of that anyway. And don't know if I'm sure the lineups have changed drastically over the years, drastically. But anyhow, what are the bands that you think of that you don't officially like, but when a song comes on, you find yourself listening to it and digging it, that you maybe never even owned an album of theirs? I'm curious if there's those, but I got a lot of errands I got to run and take care of some stuff, so I'm going to get off here. But I appreciate y'all being here, and I will see you somewhere down the road. Much love to you.